Hey guys, welcome. This is Edgar with TaxDome, and I want to thank you for joining us for another product-focused webinar where we cover one specific topic in detail for those who have already started using TaxDome. Today's topic is all about team management, and I am sure those who have already rolled out their portal and have started to use it will find this webinar very informative, not only for them but also for all their team members that are currently using the system. Now let me quickly walk through today's agenda. We'll start by talking about access rights in the system. Access rights that define what exactly your team members should be able to see and must be able to do when they log in to TaxDome and start using it, all based on what their responsibilities are within the firm. Then we are going to talk about account access and how we can start automating the process of assigning new and existing clients to the different members of our team during the different stages of our processes. We'll discuss account followers, another incredibly useful feature for users that have access to view more client accounts than they need to be notified of. We'll go over the different ways you can start communicating with your team and where exactly in the system you should start documenting important information about your clients and your projects. And we'll wrap up with communication in messages, using our secure messages feature that multiple members of the team can use to communicate with clients simultaneously. During this webinar, I will go over specific case scenarios that will help us touch on the different aspects of team management features available in TaxDome. And so let's suppose the tax season has just started and you decided to bring in some temporary staff to help you get through the busiest moments. Then the first thing we have to do here is adding our team members in our TaxDome settings, just by going to settings on the left sidebar and then clicking Team and Plans on the top menu bar. Right in here, we're going to have a summary, a list of all the current members of our team that are active, and a drop down that lists all the deactivated members of our team. We can add a new member by clicking Add Member on the top right corner of the page, and then start editing the information of the member. We're going to call this member Preparer 3. We'll give them an email. And now let's start talking about access rights in the system for a tax preparer. Now you have to remember, as a firm owner, you have immediate access to all TaxDome's features, but your team members do not. It's up to you to decide what each team member will be able to do in the system and what they will be able to see in the system as well. And you can set this up by giving them specific access rights when you are creating their accounts. These access rights can also be at any point switched back on or back off, depending on if you want to grant more access rights to your team members or revoke their existing access rights. Now in this case, we're going to add a team member that will be solely responsible for tax return preparation in the firm. Let's take a look at which access rights we should give them. First of all, they will need access to managed documents. Managed documents means your tax preparer is going to have the ability to not only retrieve existing client information or any client data, any folders, any files the client currently has, but also newly uploaded documents by your clients. And this is something your tax preparers will need. In this case, let's suppose we will be using TaxDome's feature to lock documents to a pending invoice. While our tax preparer is sharing the final draft with our clients, we want to give them the ability to also create an invoice to the client and at the same time lock the document to the invoice so the client receives a notification that the document is available on the portal, but it will be locked to an invoice right from the moment it was uploaded to the system. I will also give my tax preparer access to manage organizers and manage contracts. Just in case we make any changes to our existing templates anytime during tax season, we can definitely have as well your tax preparers and not only you be able to resend your clients their questionnaires or their updated engagement letters. And finally, I will also give the tax preparer access to mute emails and edit organizer answers. Mute emails just in case I am having a conversation with a client, but my preparer doesn't need to be aware of this conversation or doesn't need to be notified about it. They can simply mute the specific email conversation I am having with the client, and they just won't be bothered with notifications on their inbox that are just not relevant for them. And edit organizer answers just in case any clients decide they were not able to fill out their electronic questionnaires through their phones or through their computers, and we have to do it on their behalf. In that case, I would like my tax preparers to have the ability to fill out our clients' questionnaires on their behalf while they have them in an in-person meeting or perhaps on the phone. Lastly, I will not be giving access to manage manual payments. They will not be recording any payments in the system. These payments will be processed automatically via our payment processors. Our tax preparers should not have access to manage the pipelines. They will have access to view the pipelines, which is something different what we're going to cover in a few minutes, but they don't need access to manage the pipelines backend or the settings in our pipeline. We won't be using time entries because we don't bill tax preparation services by the hour. We bill the tax preparation service by the item. Our tax preparers as well will not need access to manage any templates in the system. They will all be ready for them to use. They don't need to manage accounts. All the new clients are created by our receptionist or administrator. So in this case, our preparers just won't be creating any new accounts. They just won't be managing any of the existing ones as well. They will just be working on them, being able to view them. View all accounts is not necessary because we will be manually or automatically assigning accounts to our tax preparers. They don't need to manage tags. This is something we as a firm owner or administrator do and set up for our tax preparers to use as well. They won't be managing any of the custom fields in the system. And this access right in here, assign teammates, is something that you may want to do in the case you want your tax preparers to be able to basically transfer ownership of their clients to somebody else. If this is something that happens in your firm where you have a tax preparer prepare something and then you transfer ownership to a reviewer, then toggle this access right on so your tax preparers can go into the client account and then assign the reviewer or the manager right after they're done preparing the tax return. Everything else will leave like it is. Our tax preparers don't need access to view all contacts. This is completely unnecessary for them. They don't need to be able to charge firm balance. They don't need to manage contacts, meaning they cannot edit our existing client data. They don't need to be able to manage the website. This is something we, the administrators, will do. And they don't need to be able to manage service items in the system, since this is something we, the firm, will create for them to use when they create invoices and then send them to our clients. Whenever you feel ready to invite your team member to the system, click send invite, and they will immediately receive an email asking them to create a password and start using the portal immediately. Now, you already added your team members to the portal. What comes next? How do you make sure nothing slips through the cracks? You want to make sure your tax preparers are notified about their clients, and you want to make sure your administrators are notified about everything, but maybe not everything, right? The first thing to consider here is your team members' usage in TaxDome is fairly limited until they have been provided with client account access. Providing them account access is just as important as setting up their access rights, and this is something you will have to do every single time you add a new member to your team. If you want your team members to view absolutely all client accounts in the system, you can edit their access rights so they have access to view all accounts here, and this will give them the ability to view all clients on their list, meaning they will be able not only to access all client information but also be able to send the client items based on their other access rights. If they have access to manage contracts or manage organizers, they will be able to send organizers or contracts to all the clients that they have on their list. If you want your team members to work with a selected group of clients, give them access to those accounts only. For this webinar, I have prepared a few clients that are supposed to be assigned to only one person in the team. For example, I have here my first 3 clients on the list have a tag that says prepare number 1. That tells me prepare number 1 is a predefined assignee, and since I'm listed here as one of the assignees, I do not really need to be here because prepare number 1 is going to be the person managing these 3 client accounts. I'm going to click manage team here and then unassign everybody else from the client account and just leave prepare number 1 as the assignee to the account. Once you define the action here on the right hand side of the screen, click assign on the left. And once the page refreshes, the 3 clients that we previously selected are now only assigned to prepare number 1. Meaning if the clients upload documents, if they send us a message, Prepare number one will be the first person in the team to receive an email and be notified about it. Once your team members have access to a client account in TaxDome, what they're able to do with these client accounts is only limited by the access rights that you have previously given them. From a management perspective, providing your team members access to a client account means you're giving them the ability to view the client data and perform different types of actions in it. It's just like if you were adding or removing the client account from their list when they access their portal. Take advantage of client tags so you can pull lists of specific clients that meet your criteria, and then you can take the ones that have a tag that says prepare number two. If you are the assignee to the client, you can then again manage the team, remove yourself from the client account, and then assign prepare number two. And once we do this and we go back to the list, prepare number two will be the sole assignee to the client accounts, and that also means prepared two will start receiving notifications about all activity within these three client accounts I have here. And something I want to point out here is when you are using the manage team feature and you revoke your own access, for example, as a firm owner, you will never lose access to view the clients on your list. And so, for example, if you had a member in your team that was an admin with the access rights to view all accounts and you revoke their access by doing this here, that doesn't really mean you're removing the client from their list. What you're doing is just unassigning them, meaning they will stop being notified about client activity, and only the people that are assigned to the client will receive client notifications. Your admins and yourself will still be able to view the client data if you want. You will just stop receiving notifications about client activity. I'm going to go back here to my client list. I'm going to quickly reset my filter here to just be able to see all my clients here on the list. And now we just added our team members or tax preparers to the portal. In addition to everything we have discussed today, I finally wanted to talk about account followers and team communication in the system. In most cases, when you have access to view a client account on your list, you will also be following it, which means just like in social media, you'll be receiving notifications about the client activity. When you don't need to receive any notifications about client activity, but you still want to have them on your list, the only thing you gotta do is select the checkbox here for the clients on the side, click more actions, and follow or unfollow the accounts if you want to start receiving notifications about their activity, or just stop receiving notifications about their activity if you are already following. Now, what happens when your business process doesn't have a step where you meet with the client and you assign the client to somebody in your team? What if your clients are just told to upload their tax documents, and when they are ready to be worked on, then a tax preparer can take ownership of the project based on their availability? In those cases, we will obviously not be able to do what we just did, where we can click the clients and then manage team to assign somebody to the client. What we do in that case is use a pipeline automation. As an example, I am going to use our individual income tax return pipeline that already has a few stages in it. Now, for those that are experiencing situations where you have new clients that you cannot assign to somebody specific, you're just waiting on their documents. Once their documents are ready, somebody takes ownership of the project and they start preparing the return. But you also have cases where you have returning clients that have been with you for years, and you have a preparing team that prepared the return last year. Well, in that case, we can then predefine who works with those returning clients, right? With a pipeline automation, we can basically resolve both cases in a fairly simple way. Now, for that case where we have new clients or returning clients that don't have a preparer pre-assigned to them, I created a stage in my process called Ready for Prep. So those clients that don't have an assignee fall into here, and immediately my tax preparers are notified about the clients that are available to be worked on, and based on their availability, they can then take ownership of the projects and remove everybody else from the task. So the client is only on their list and not on somebody else's. For the other case where I do have clients that can have a predefined assignee, those clients will skip this stage of the process. So from waiting for documents, they'll just completely skip it, or my preparers are not notified. they will go directly to the in prep stage where I can have a task template that triggers or fires off based on who is the assignee to the client, based on a conditional automation. And so none of the other preparers are notified if the client is ready because it completely skipped the ready for prep stage. Now let's take a look at the pipeline settings just to see how we would be able to achieve this. I click edit here on the top right corner and I'll scroll down a little bit to see the conditional stage I have here. To resolve this situation, I created a tag in my system that I called unassigned account. I went here to my client list and I am now able to assign this tag to the clients that don't have an assignee predefined. I can go back here to my client list and then use this tag that I created to basically apply it to some accounts that don't have a predefined assignee. What I'll do here is just assign them this unassigned account tag. And so when these accounts here that I just assigned a tag to fall into the pipeline stage, they will actually be able to go to ready for prep because they have the tag, and my stage only runs for the accounts that have the unassigned account tag. The ones that have a prepare number 1, prepare number 2, prepare number 3 tag, they will completely skip this stage and go directly here where I can then trigger not a conditional stage but conditional automation. So I will have essentially 2 or 3 different task templates that can fire off based on what is the client tag. If it was assigned to prepare number 1, prepare number 1 gets a task when my clients go into the in prep stage. Now, as far as what automation items we need to resolve this case, we will definitely have to use an update account access. So when our clients go into this stage of the process, it doesn't really matter who is the assignee to the client here under the team column, because regardless of that, our preparers will gain or be granted account access when the clients enter this stage of the process. So it could be that the clients are just not even on their list until the clients are ready for prep. Right? Our preparers don't need to receive notifications about client messages or client uploads until the client is ready to be worked on. You always got to think of the workflow as an essential piece of your system that changes every time you add a new member. For example, if you have temporary staff, you just added them to the portal, they will need access to view the pipeline. So you would just basically go to the pipeline settings and always add their names here. This gives them the ability to see the pipeline on their workflow list. So they can see the structure of the process and see all the clients underneath all the stages. Of course, they can only see the clients they have the ability to view. Another thing that will always change every time you add a new member of your team to TaxDome are the automation items. If I previously was only assigning prepare number 3, my system employee, to all client accounts that entered this stage of the process, I can now change this so multiple members of the team are notified when any clients fall into this stage of the process. And so, for example, if I save my changes here and I go back to my workflow view by clicking back twice on the browser, now when my clients go from waiting for documents to ready for prep, all 4 tax preparers will be granted access to the client account, meaning they will now be able to receive notifications about the client activity. And that means here I could have another automation item for the creation of a task. So if a task is created and at the same time all possible tax preparers are given account access, that means they can all receive a notification about the client being ready to be worked on, and based on their availability, one of them takes ownership, removes the rest of the members from being assignees to the task, and now they took complete ownership of the client. And because we set up the system so they have access to assign their teammates or unassign their teammates and assign themselves to items in TaxDome, they won't have any problems doing this. The last case I wanted to go over today is what happens when you have already added all your members in the team, your workflow is set up, your team members' access rights are set up as well. But now you, the firm owner, want to stop receiving notifications about all clients. That is why you initially added an admin to your team. And then how do we make your admin the default assignee to all newly created accounts in TaxDome? So you just stop receiving notifications every time a new client is created in the portal. First, go to the settings on the left sidebar and then click Firm Settings on the top menu bar. If you scroll down just a bit, you will find a field that says Default Account Access. If your name is here, this means all newly imported and newly created accounts in TaxDome will be assigned to you as a firm owner. Meaning as well that if the clients have any type of activity, just like a message, or if they upload a file, or if they do absolutely anything in the system, you'll be the person to receive an email about it. But you can always change this field and make your admin or somebody else in your team the default assignee to all newly created accounts in TaxDome. As a firm owner, you will always receive one notification when any new clients create or activate their accounts for the first time. However, we do understand that you don't need to be notified about anything else they do in the portal if you have an administrator in your team that is in charge of keeping track of them. Finally, I want to quickly run through the workflow process. I'm going to click Workflow on the sidebar again and then open up my pipeline. And I will add a job just to go through the process I have here, and as well generate a situation where I, as a tax preparer, as a reviewer, or as a manager, need to request information from somebody else in my team, or I need to ping them about something, just because I want to show you where you would ideally record this information. For this example, I'm going to add a job by clicking Add Job on the top right corner. I'm going to add one of my clients here, and then click Add on the bottom right. When the client is added to the pipeline, that also means a job is created for the client. And for example, on the first stage of my process, which I called Interview Scheduled, that means my clients become part of a process when they call in to schedule an interview, or they go through one of my web funnels and they end up scheduling an interview with a tax professional. As an example of information that I would like to keep visible for everybody, if I was the one to have this interview with this client, if the client called to reschedule their appointment or they missed the appointment they had, I would definitely like to record this information somewhere on the system. So ideally, any information that has to do with a specific project. In this case, we have a job for the client. I'm just going to rename the job to 2021 here. 2021 tax return. So we know what the project is about. I'm also going to create a comment here. I'm going to add a comment to say that client called to reschedule the appointment, right? If I then document this piece of comment will become part of information that is tied to the project specifically. If instead of creating a comment that has to do specifically with a project we are working on for the client, I wanted to perhaps create a note that will be permanent on the client record, what I could do is click the client name here on the top. This will open a new tab on my browser and will take me to the client profile. Once I'm in the client profile, I can click Notes here and then start documenting anything I believe will be worth having permanently on the client record. An advantage of using notes in the system is you can mention your team members. So for example, if I needed to ping someone about something, I would just simply mention my preparer or my reviewer or any of my team members, and when I leave a note and I save it, my preparer and my other team member will both receive an email with my note. I not only can do this while I am on the notes section of a client, but I can also mention my team members in the description of tasks. To better see this, I will go back here to the workflow and I will just move the job I have for this client to the stage that says in review. This stage creates a task for somebody in the team. In this case, I will assign it to myself. When I click move and the job moves to this stage in the process, and I click the job to see what items are linked to it, I will see that I have the task to review this client's tax return. But if I click my task, I'll then open a new tab on my browser to see the task information. Within the task information, I can utilize comments that will be tied to the task itself, or I can use the task description box to ping someone, perhaps my preparer, and tell them whatever I needed, right, from them. This will again send the preparer a notification both to their inbox in TaxDome and to their email with the note, and when they click the hyperlink, TaxDome will take them to where the note is in the system, so they will know what we are talking about. I can save this, and as soon as I save it, my preparer will receive an email about it. I'm going to close this tab, go back to my workflow. Now, the only last thing that I believe is very important for all of us to have an understanding of is how our clients, or the clients that are assigned to multiple people in the firm, are able to communicate with all of us when they send us a message. I'm going to move this job to a stage in the process that creates a conversation with the client. In this example here, I'm moving my client to the waiting for documents stage, where my pipeline automates a message asking my clients for their documents. The client then stays in this stage until they have uploaded all their documents. They confirm they've uploaded all the documents, and then they move to ready for prep or in prep if they already have a predefined tax preparer on their accounts. I'm going to mark my pending tasks here completed, just for the purpose of showing you guys an example, and I'm going to send my client a message. I'm going to click here, move, and then click the job card again to see the pending items or the linked items to the job. I'm going to click the message subject to go to the conversation we have with the client. And TaxDome will always use templates that have predefined senders of whether it is for an email or for a message. In this case, the message was sent from bookkeeper number 1. But I, or any of the other members in the team that have access to this client account, are able to follow up with the client directly, say hello, and the message will then come from them. This is again a group conversation that we as a firm are having with the client, and anybody in the team that has access to this client account can follow up directly with the client or reply to client messages. And if you ever need to notify someone in your team about a message that you just sent to your client, you can do that by mentioning them. Prepare number 1 for your information. And when you do this, prepare number 1 will now receive a notification both on their Inbox Plus page in TaxDome and on their email. That is all I had for you today. Thank you very much for joining us on this webinar. I hope you found it beneficial and helpful to you and your team. If you have any questions, our team is more than happy to help you.